this episode of Let's Talk 716 Sports. My special guest is Sal Capaccio, and we will be talking some Buffalo Bills football. How did the Bills mini camp go this season?
Hey, buddy. Well, there was a lot of drama. Good to be here with you. Obviously, with the Stefon Diggs stuff, and everybody's talking about Stefon Diggs missing minicamp for the first day, and then, coming back the next day, and what Sean McDermott said. So I think that would dominated the headlines. I think other than that, it went well. Obviously, they lost a player, Zach Davidson, who got hurt, tore his ACL. I believe he has a knee injury, but he's out for the season. He's put on an injured reserve. So really stinks to lose a guy in a situation like that. You're not even playing games yet, ever to lose a guy, but especially in, mini camp. Otherwise, I thought it was a good OTA, and all summer they went through all their OTAs and different workouts and the mini camps, but I felt it went pretty well, just kind of watching everybody else and some guys making plays and guys who stood out, but obviously the Stefon Diggs stuff dominated the conversation.
When does training camp open up in Rochester?
So July 26th is the first day of camp, and it's going to be 9:45 in the morning, and then pretty much they're there, I think, 10 different days up until August 10th. Most practices are at 9:45. They've won on a Sunday at 11:45. They're coming back to Buffalo for one on Friday night, August 4th, for the evening practice they always do here in Orchard Park at the stadium. But July 26th is the first date of training camp.
How do you see Josh Allen progressing this year?
Well, I don't know, how much better Josh can get. He's already one of the top guys in the league, and he's gotten MVP votes the last few years, and he's obviously an elite quarterback. I think, one thing that's been talked about a lot from Sean McDermott and others is making sure that Josh understands when to make good decisions, when to run, when to try to, get the extra yards, taking on contact, sliding, get it on a bounds, things like that. So I think that's got to be his next progression. He's always going to be a player who looks to make the big play all the time. I always say Josh wants to win the Super Bowl on every play, and he can't do that, right? And I think that's another part of the progression. But at the same time, I think that's what makes Josh special, is he's always willing to and able to make the great play and the big play. And, I think that's got to be something you never take away from him. But as he progresses on in his career, to still understand how he can make sure that he's always available for his team. He started 71 straight games, which is pretty amazing. It's the most in the league for any NFL quarterback right now, current active streak. And you want to keep that going, and you hope he plays for a long time, obviously. So I think that's got to be his next progression.
What is the running back situation this year with James Cook?
Well, I think James is the lead back. I don't think there's any doubt about that right now. Some may argue and say maybe Damian Harris could take that over. I don't think so. I think Damian Harris becomes more of a complimentary back, but a guy they really like, and a guy I think they'll use in certain situations. And, I think that right now what you have with James Cook and Damian Harris is pretty much what you had with Devin Singletary and James Cook last year, which is kind of a 1-2 punch, and, in certain situations using different guys. But I also think that, Latavius Murray being on this roster is really interesting because he's a bigger back. They've been looking for that. Now, Damian Harris runs tough, but he's not super big. I think they'd like to have a guy like Latavius on the field in certain situations, but, can you afford to have him on the roster, a 53-man roster, and take a roster spot from someone? How does that all work out in the end? We'll see. And then you have Nyheim Hines, who's really there to be mainly a return man, but obviously he can be used, on offense in certain situations as well if needed.
How do you think the Bills will do this year, like with their schedule?
It's a very tough schedule. It's one of the toughest in the league, not just going by last year's wins, but looking at the teams and the improvements that some have made as well. But, their crossover opponents are all the teams from the AFC West, which are obviously good and on the rise. And maybe last year they didn't have the years they wanted, but Kansas City's in there, obviously, and the Chargers and the Raiders and the Broncos with their new head coach and, the weapons they have to surround Russell Wilson. Maybe he has a bounce back year. But then, of course, their other crossover divisions, the NFC East. And that's the Giants and Brian Dable and what they did. And, of course, Dallas. And, they're always a tough out. Washington's in that division. And, of course, the defending NFC champions the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's very tough. Most of their tough games are on the road. That includes Cincinnati as well as Philadelphia and Kansas City. And then the division is a lot better, right? Miami, the Jets, New England. Got to pay them twice. So I didn't even mention some of the other teams they're playing, like Jacksonville, right? They have to play them as well. But it's going to be a tough year as far as the schedule is concerned. But the Bills are one of the better teams. How do I think they'll do? I mean, they'll be right in the mix. They're still the favorites to win the AFC East. They should be. They have the best roster and the best quarterback in the division. So I think that, not having them win the AFC East would probably be disappointment short of having any sort of, injuries that cause that to happen. I think, they should still be right there. And then we'll see if they can be in the mix to win that one seed again. Those games against Cincinnati and Kansas City, November and December, are going to be key, obviously, to that.
What do you think of the new design for the stadium that they're building in Orchard Park?
I love it. I think that's going to be super interesting, and I'm fascinated by watching it go up. I'm fascinated by all the renderings and the drawings and things like that they put out. Thinking about being on that field for opening day, whenever that is, 2026, whenever that, that particular game happens. I love the design, that the conceptual, what they're thinking of, why they want to do it, making it for Buffalo fans who said, hey, we don't mind being cold. We don't want to be wet. So, have a lot of the fans, it'll be a little bit more covered there. It's not SoFi Stadium in LA, obviously. Some of these bigger monstrous stadiums, Jerry World in Texas and Dallas, what they've built there. But I think it's the kind of stadium that fits right for Buffalo. So I do like the design. I do like the concept, the ideas, and I'm excited to watch it go up.
I heard you were a wide receiver back in like college, high school. Um, what did it feel like being on the field?
Yes. I didn't play college football. In high school. I went to Cleveland Hill High School. I was a wide receiver, a safety, and a punt and kick returner. I never left the field. I did everything. We were a smaller school, so everybody kind of had to play. Most people played, both offense and defense. I played both offense and defense. And I still hold the record at my high school for the highest average yards per catch as a wide receiver throughout his, career. It was great. Scored some touchdowns, had some great wins. We won a championship, Section 6 championship. When I was there, I played at the stadium where the Bills play. I had an interception there. I still love playing football. I'm 50 years old, and I still play in a men's flag football league, which is really cool. So what it felt like was super cool. But I think the biggest thing that I felt was so awesome was just playing with my friends and being out in the field and competing with my friends and going through all the August practices and games and getting into the cold and practicing and going out there and competing. So I think that I was a little too small to play college football. I really kind of would love to have, but by the time I got through high school, I knew that I probably wouldn't be doing that. I had a nomination for the Connolly Cup, which is given to the best high school player every year in Western New York. So that's something I was really proud of, to, an individual accomplishment, but more just about the team and the people that we had around us and the coaches that I loved playing for and with. And it was great. So I always shout out my alma mater, Cleveland Hill, when I get a chance. And so you gave me a chance to do that today. So I appreciate it.
How much do you charge as a wedding dancer?
That's a great question. Zero. I don't charge anything. Just invite me and I'll dance at your wedding. No, I love going to have a good time when people have weddings that I know and parties and things like that. My wife and I like to go and have a good time and mingle with people, but I like to get on the dance floor when the music's rocking. So it's just the way I've always been. I'm high energy. I want to be there to have a good time. I don't want to stand around. I feel like, hey, I came here to have a good time. People are dancing, and I like to do that. So I don't charge anything, but I like to have a good time. So that good times and positivity are free of charge.
How long have you covered the Bills for?
This will be my 10th year as the sideline reporter. I think it will be overall my 12th year of covering the team in some capacity, because I moved back to Buffalo. I was living in Florida. I grew up in Buffalo. I moved back to Buffalo in 2011. So I covered the team on WGR, not as the main beat reporter, but I was still a part of, covering the team and that, talking about them since 2011. So I'll say 12 years. I became the team's beat reporter in 2016, I believe it was, maybe 2017, but sideline reporter in 2014. So this might be my 10th year. So it's been over 10 years now that I've been really covering the team professionally. I grew up watching them though, and like you, a fan, covering them in my own way, right? I mean, I remember the Super Bowl years and being a teenager and into college and not covering it and going to games, in the media, but just, watching the games and rooting on the Bills.
How long have you been on radio?
Since I was in college at Syracuse University, starting in 1991, maybe 92 is when I started the radio thing. I entered college in 1991, and Syracuse, they have a radio station called WJPZ Z89, and I got involved with the college radio station. So I was on radio in college, and then I went to Florida and I was on radio there. And I left the business for a little while. I was a teacher and a high school football coach down in Florida for 10 years, but I was still doing a little bit of radio on the side. So really, since I was 18 years old, I've been on the radio. So I guess 32 years would be the answer.
Do you have any questions?
For you?
Yeah.
Oh man, put me on the spot, but I guess I do have some questions for you. Let's see. Let me start with, who is your favorite Bills player of all time?
Like Tyrod or Josh Allen?
Love it. You love the quarterbacks. All right. Who's your favorite Sabres player?
It was Danny Briere, but now it's Rasmus Dahlin.
Okay. What is your high bowling game score?
288.
Wow. Did you just miss a 300? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I had like 10 strikes, and then I had a 8 count and a spare.
Wow, that's a great game. That's amazing. I bowled in high school, and I think I rolled a 239 one time, but I wasn't that great. I didn't roll it like that all the time. There was a very good game for me. But I think 239 was my high, and that happened only one time. That's super duper impressive. Over your shoulder, I see all those plaques and awards. Are those mostly all for bowling, or what are they for?
Yeah, most of them are like for bowling and
Anything else? Any other sports that you played or things you've done? Anything out there that's the behind you there on the wall there?
um like I mean, I like the Bills, so
Okay.
I have a Bills street
You do.
sign on the
I see
back.
your Dominic Hasek thing. My son has a Dominic Hasek a pennant from when he got put up. Do you have a Rick Jenneret one yet?
No,
You're
but
gonna have to get a Rick Jenneret one. You have to, put that up since he was the last the guy. How about Ryan Miller? He's gone in. Do you remember watching Ryan Miller played? How I don't know, if you remember that far. If you remember Danny Briere, then I'm sure you probably remember Ryan Miller.
yeah. Yeah, Miller
Okay.
was a good goalie back in.
Yeah. Do you remember the first Sabres game you ever went to?
I know they were in the black and red jerseys when I went,
All right.
like the first
All right.
few years.
Okay. The first game I ever went to, I was in fifth grade. So they had to be like 1983, 1984, 85, somewhere in there. And they lost, it was the old auditorium. They lost the Minnesota North Stars, who then became the Dallas Stars. They lost 4-1, and John Tucker scored the only goal for the Sabres. That's how much I remember it. Pretty crazy, huh? Do you go
Yeah.
to Bills games? Do you go to Bills games?
Um, I used to go to, like, my dad and I were season ticket holders at
Oh,
one
nice.
point, and
Okay.
we went to a lot of games, and like I remember like Eric Moles, um, Terrell Owens, Lee
Yep.
Evans,
Yep. Great. Love it.
and like JP Lossman.
Yeah. Yeah. Those two, the drought teams for sure. They had some good players though. Fred Jackson, right? Guys like that. Okay, last one from me. So non-sports, so you can't pick a sport here. What else do you like to do in your spare time when you have some free time? What do you like to do that's not sports watching or sports playing or video game sports or anything like that?
Um, I like to hang out with my cousin
Okay.
and my and I have a few friends that I hang out with.
What do you guys do? You just hang out, you go places, ride bikes together, you play games. What do you do?
Like we we hang out and
Just chill?
yeah.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's it from me. Good job.
Where can like my viewers find your stuff at?
I'm on Twitter at Sal Sports, all one word, SAL Sports, and at WGR550.com. You can find my articles, but of course, I'm on the radio every day, 10 to 12 normally on WG.
Does your show like cover hockey sometimes?
All the time. Today, in fact, we carried Sabres GM Kevin Adams press conference live on my show. So we talk about anything in sports, Bills, Sabres, especially, but those two things especially, but college sports, whatever. It's a sports talk show. So, anybody wants to call up and talk about whatever they want, that's great.
What did you think of the parade for the Bandits?
Loved it. Me and my son both went and we loved it. It was a great time. He's a big Bandits fan, and to have a championship parade in the city of Buffalo was just super cool to watch him, be a part of and walk along it and see those guys celebrating. And I hope it's a preview of what's to come with the Bills and the Sabres.
You think the Bandits have a good chance to like repeat as champions?
Sure. I mean, they're always in the mix, right? I know they got a bit of an older roster in some positions, so they're going to make some tough decisions. But they have some great players, obviously, and I know that the great staff down there and um, the team and the coach and John Tavares and everybody they work with will they'll be ready again in 2023-24.
Thank you for tuning in or listening to this episode of Let's Talk Someone's Like Sports. Thank you to my special guest, Sal Capaccio, and go Bills.
Thanks, Robbie.